Hey guys, this is a remaster of the Last of Us episode of The Chatter After. This was recorded in 2020 prior to the release of The Last of Us Part 2. Just for some context, if the conversation feels a little bit dated because we had a lack of information, but it's still a fantastic conversation. Hope you enjoy.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the pod where we chat, argue, and wax poetic about the movies that we love, hate, or that are simply worth talking about. All movies have something to say, and we enjoy trying to analyze what they capture. Welcome to the Shatter After. How is everybody doing out there? My name is Brandon Alvarado, the Scarlet Fan here, and I am excited to be back in this table to talk movies and the things that we love and analyze it with people that love it or hate it as much as I do, because that's what the Shatter After is about. It's been a while since we've recorded an episode of this particular podcast, and with a fantastic sequel for a video game that I love coming up, in this video game being known for its cinematic take on storytelling for a video game, I thought it was perfect to take the time for this episode to talk about this game. Talk about a game that is like literally playing a movie, playing its characters, and that you can it's one of those games that you can easily just put on all the cutscenes without the gameplay, and it would be perfectly considered as a film that challenges you emotionally, a film that makes you ask yourself certain questions as you look at the characters and identify with them. This particular game has shaped the game industry in a very particular way. And I'm glad that I finally get a chance to talk about this game with other people. And this game is none other than The Last of Us. The Last of Us was originally released on 2013 towards the end of the PS3's lifespan. It was remastered in 2014 with the release of the PS4, and has become one of the greatest and most biggest selling game in the PS3 and PS4's lifetime. PlayStation, I would say, even. But I'm not going to just be monologuing about this game by myself. I have invited some very good friends of mine that have played the game and have experienced what it is to experience The Last of Us. And I have my first guest is Brett, the Music Man. Miro.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I am so pumped to geek out about this game with all you guys right now. So thank you for asking me.
Nice. I got Michael, the Novice Thomas.
Hey, thanks for having me. Enjoy being here talking to you guys about The Last of Us. It's going to be great.
Rob, the VA Hustler Moreira.
You already know your boys here in the house. Let's do this.
Nice. And John, the Buff Matthews. What's up, man?
What's up? Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
Awesome. So the awesome thing about The Last of Us is that because it's a game, the only real way to experience it is by playing it. And I think that's the one thing that we all have in common. We've all played this game once, twice, maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe once a year. Some people have a game in their library that they religiously revisit once a year. I'm not saying that that's the case for me with The Last of Us, but we all have that one game that if we start playing it, we're just going to keep playing it till we finish it. I know The Last of Us is one of those games for me. I've actually personally played it 4 times. and it was one of those games that I was originally going to dismiss because I didn't know anything about it. When I first heard of The Last of Us was because my wife got me for my birthday a PS3 bundle with the game, but I ignored it because I wanted to play Metal Gear. And I didn't know what it was about or how important it was because I was really disconnected from all the video game landscape for years. But I don't want to just talk about myself. Let's talk to you guys. Let's start with you, Mike. Mike, when did you first find out about this game? When did you first play it? How did you encounter The Last of Us?
So The Last of Us is the last game I bought on my PlayStation 3, which sadly died halfway through my playthrough.
What?
Of The Last of Us.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But I got the PS4, so you know what the first game I got for PS4 was The Last
Remastered.
of Us Remastered.
Right.
And this was, 2014? So I was 17 at the time or so. This game scared me, but I knew it was so good that I just played through it anyway, even though I'm like cringing, looking through my looking through my hands during the cutscenes and the cinematics. But over time, I learned to really appreciate The Last of Us because it is truly one of the best games I've ever played, one of the best stories I've ever played, one of my favorite stories in any medium, not just video games too. So I just love everything about it, and I can't wait for The Last of Us Part 2.
Nice. Rob, what's your take?
Well, I mean, I usually tend to keep a pretty firm thumb on the pulse of games, so I knew about the game through its development before it came out, so it was a game that I was anticipating at the time. I mean, if we want to age ourselves, back then I was older than 17, so we'll leave it at that. I was older than that, but anyway, I was well within my 30s. But yeah. So when the game came out, it was obviously an instant purchase. I had to get it, and it was. I mean, it definitely. I try to go into games semi-apprehensive because they're always going to show you the goodie bits. So that's kind of what I was expecting. I was like, all right, the game looks good, but, I let the game wow me. I try not to get too sold on what they want to show me. And then I played through it, and I was just like, well, damn. All right, cool. So they basically, they took Resident Evil and made you care about people, which was kind of cool. I actually really like that. Because in Resident Evil, you're just like, I'm going to, go around, kill zombies, and fuck shit up, while this one, it was like, nah, I kind of care about what's happening right now. I care about this other character, kind of like the way you feel for Clem in the Walking Dead Telltale series. You really care about that other character that you have no control over, but you as they do such a great job of making you. Through the story and the actions and the choices that they force you to make, you grow an attachment to this character, and they, I mean, with that, I mean, I think they really knocked it out of the park.
Sweet. What you got for us, John?
Yeah, so the PlayStation 4 was the first PlayStation console I ever owned. So obviously I didn't have it. The Last of Us, when it was back on the PS3, is a game that I heard really great things about. It's a game that it's like, hey, if I had a PlayStation 3, I would get this because I've heard such great things. It looks right up my alley. So once they did remaster it for the PlayStation 4, I bought it, and once I had finished it, I knew that it was one of the best games that I've ever played. And kind of over time, I've come to realize that I think it maybe is the best game I've ever played. I can kind of discuss a little bit more as to why I feel that way, but later. But yeah, it was very much worth the hype that I had heard. It very much lived up to it.
How many times have you played it?
I've played it once,
and it still leaves that lasting impression on you.
It does, yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Mr. Miro.
Yeah, so actually, I, like John, did not ever own a PlayStation console until the PS4, and even that I did not buy, in 2013 when they first launched. I jumped on that, I think, in summer of 2015 to play Arkham Knight.
Nice.
And I'm a big Nintendo fan. I always do have my finger on the pulse of video games, but so I was aware of Last of Us, but I wasn't really following it that much. I looked at some videos, saw some screenshots. I was like, this looks really cool, but I was like, I have Nintendo consoles, so I'm not gonna waste my time looking at it because I can't afford it. I'm not gonna play it. So anyway, fast forward 2015, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm taking the dive. I need to get a PS4 because I want to play Arkham Knight and, whatever. And at the time, they had the bundle that came with The Last of Us Remastered. So I picked that up. I picked up Dying Light as well because I really wanted to play that, and I was a big fan of Dead Island. And it was like the spiritual successor to that. And then I had Arkham Knight, and I think I might have got what is it, Shadow of Mordor, but I didn't like it. I wasn't feeling that game. But anyway, I digress. So so the whole story is like I get that. I have The Last of Us remastered. I probably downloaded it, but then I didn't touch it because I was playing all these other games. And then the Uncharted 4 trailers started coming out, and I was like, wow, I got to play this Uncharted series. And at the same time, they announced that they were going to do the Uncharted collection. So this was my first dive into Naughty Dog games at all, altogether. So for me, I was just like, I'm gonna love this stuff. So like, I've heard so many good things. So actually, when I played The Last of Us, if I'm not mistaken, I had just plowed through Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 back to back to back, if I'm remembering correctly, and then immediately went into The Last of Us. So like, in a way, I was maybe a little drained just because the gameplay is very similar from Uncharted game to game to game, but obviously the story is very different. So I'm just coming off of a Naughty Dog bender. I start this Last of Us game, and oh my god, I mean, that game still, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into, a little more details. So like, there's definitely some things that I think don't hold up as well, or that even at the time I was kind of like, okay. But as far as the story goes, I just don't think anything tops it. I mean, I was just absolutely stunned. And I know we'll get into like the ending, which is like one of the most talked about things, but
Yep.
that jacked me up for a while. I mean, I remember like a good 2-3 weeks after I beat the game, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Like every free moment, I was just thinking about like what just happened. It absolutely blew my mind, and only maybe a few other games have ever done that in my entire life, and I'm a lifelong gamer. So yeah, I mean, my first experience was like, this is some top notch shit. Like this is what video games can be. This is what video games can aspire to be. And oh my god, the future is so bright. That's really what that game left me with.
Yeah, I love how you were mentioning Uncharted. That's really the only reason I bought The Last of Us, because as John knows from our podcast, I'm not into horror. Don't play horror games, don't watch horror movies, Walking Dead or Resident Evil, stuff like that. But playing the Uncharted series and then seeing this is Naughty Dog's next project, I swallowed my I don't like horror doubt. I'm like, I'm just going to go with it because I love these other three.
Yeah, you just trusted the studio. You followed the studio and you said, I'm with them, whatever they do next, whatever it is. It's like,
exactly. And they haven't failed me yet.
yeah, they've earned a lot of goodwill. I mean, let's face it.
Right.
See, it's kind of funny because I've been an early adopter of Sony. Basically, I've owned most every system in existence besides like the Dreamcast, but I've owned almost all of them at some point in my life. So I've played the original PlayStation. I love my original PlayStation 2. But what's funny for me is that for you guys, you were kind of like, oh, Uncharted and Naughty Dog, and let's see what this next thing is. While for me, I was like, hold on, this game was made by the Crash Bandicoot guys?
Yes.
And that's where I'm coming from. And the thing is, I'm a huge Crash Bandicoot fan. Like, I love Crash Bandicoot. I even bought the remastered versions because I just wanted to play them again. I think they're just kooky games and super amazing platforming, though sometimes terribly frustrating. But it's fun regardless. So to me, I was like, it's like basically, the developers that made Mario, whoever those Nintendo guys were, venturing out and being like, yeah, so we made Resident Evil. Like that's basically what this was for me. I'm like, wait, what? That's weird. That's a hell of a 180, but yeah, all right, I'm down for it. And they've been killing it. Naughty Dog they're slaying it right now.
Yeah, I actually played Last of Us before any of the Uncharted games. At the time, I knew I wanted to play the Uncharted games, but after I finished Last of Us and realized that it was that Uncharted was from the same company, I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely playing Uncharted now.
So it was the same but reversed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, reversing the games. That's funny.
That's something that's very particular. That's how you know that this studio has something special, has a voice. You know what I mean? That whenever you see that logo, you want to see what they're bringing to the table. And I find, and it's funny because I'm pretty confident I played The Last of Us before I play any of the Uncharted games. But knowing that A Thief's End was coming and that I was going to get probably a PS4 with that edition very soon, I started playing the Uncharted games, and nobody can deny the dynamic storytelling on these games. Like, not if Naughty Dog stands out is by telling stories in a very interactive manner, but also in a very cinematic manner. And I like how they have explored multiple palettes, multiple tones. Because throughout the Uncharted series, there's multiple changes in tone and style. And then The Last of Us is just something else dramatically different, which makes us think, what else could they explore with the same technology, with the same tools that they have? I mean, this is a studio that throughout the years have developed a hell of a toolkit.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing that it's coming to a head for now with the next Last of Us chapter.
What I like too, not to cut you off, Brandon, but what I really enjoy is like the interesting way how they kind of make you really enjoy the game, because Uncharted and Last of Us, they do it in such different ways. Because like in The Last of Us, you really care for these characters in
Correct.
the way that they're suffering and the way that they're, what their circumstances are and the things that they're going through. Like you really, like you almost feel protective of these characters that you are playing as to a capacity. Like, I'm gonna get these guys through. I'm gonna make sure Joel and Ellie make it out of this. Like I got. While in Uncharted, Nathan is just so unbelievably charming as a character that it's not that you care for him as much as he's kind of like, hey guys, I'm going on this crazy adventure and I really think you should follow me. And you're kind of like, fuck yeah, you're a cool dude, let's go. So it's almost like you become a friend of his, as opposed to being like, you're that friend of his that you're just like, dude, what are you doing? But all right, let's keep going. While in The Last of Us, you're like this protector that you're trying to get these two characters through something. So I think that's pretty amazing, because it shows that Naughty Dog's not a one-trick pony in terms of their storytelling, which I really appreciate.
Well, Rob, they're not ponies. They're a dog.
Oh boy.
Well, you know what?
And there
Rob?
goes Brett's dad joke of the show.
We're gonna get out of the way early.
There you go.
Now, I am going to say this, Rob. With what you just described, it made me think about something very particular that I think is what makes Naughty Dog stand apart, or what makes a lot of PlayStation titles stand apart, is that a lot of these exclusive are very story driven. Because if you talk about PlayStation exclusive, you talked The Last of Us, you talked about, for example, Final Fantasy series, or some of them that are Persona 5, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, is that in a way, good storytellers in video games find a way to give the player a role within the story.
Yes, 100%.
And this is one of those games that it might not be the best word, but exploits that or nurtures that more than others, because you're not just controlling these characters in these hard situations. When you understand that you're making decisions for the characters, you question yourself the decisions that you're making. And it makes you start that internal monologue, which is very interesting, because I was reading an article from Wired in regards to The Last of Us Part 2 and everything, and one of the things that Neil Druckmann says is that they create scenes, they create dialogue, they create gameplay moments to allow you as a player to understand and feel what the character is feeling, and then have that affect you. Like anything, like when you read a good book, when you watch a good movie, it strikes a chord with you, whether in laughter, whether in tears, whether in pain, whether in confusion. It strikes a chord with you internally, like it leaves an effect, and this is one of those games that definitely does that. And most great PlayStation titles strike a chord with you, whether it's Horizon's sense of adventure, whether it's Persona's questions of morality and power and stuff like that. I mean, you guys just saw the PlayStation conference, right?
Right, yeah, we're coming right off the heels of that, pretty much.
Yeah, so isn't it amazing that they literally stuck their guns and say, we know what we produce, and it was just a gameplay or just a video of literally almost people not talk. Like I was expecting something similar to the technical demo where they would talk about the console and stuff like that. They didn't do that. They said, hey, this is a console and these are all the games that we're making for you guys.
Well, this is the reason to plunk down, what we assume is going to be $500, $600 this holiday season, because we have this stuff in production or we're going to be launching, with these games at this quality.
Right.
Yeah, they have to make a what do you call it, like a cost like proposition, a value proposition to you. Like, why should you drop more money, at the end of this year when you still have maybe just upgraded to your PS4 Pro like I did, like, I don't know, what, a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I'm not necessarily eager to drop another $500, $600. I mean, Last of Us is coming to PS4, so I'm able to play that. A lot of stuff is going to come out still cross-gen for a little bit. They're expecting this to be a slower like adoption rate for the next gen. So but today they nudged me a little bit. I was like, okay, maybe I do need to get one sooner than later.
They
did what they needed to do. Yeah.
The beauty of that conference, though, is that all those games, it says like just launching in 2020 or 2021. You didn't have games coming out in 5 years, 4 years, or whatever.
Yes.
It's like you can buy your PS5 this fall, this holiday season, and most of these games you'll be able to get within the next year.
Yeah, feel confident that you're gonna have like a steady flow of content. Yeah. That's what you need to do. You need to come out of the gate like that. Microsoft's supposed to show up right in July or whatever. I know this is like now turning into like consoles, but I'm just saying in general, like they need to make that value proposition. I don't know if Xbox has really done that yet, but Sony knows how to take their horse for a walk, in front of the crowd and really show them. Like they're good at that. They know, and I thought it was like paced very well. They placed everything at the right moment. It was good, and they had a nice mix of like like indie kind of like little things, and they had some obviously large scale games and like huge sequels, and that's not everything. We didn't see anything from God of War. Obviously that's definitely in development. So that's like on the horizon. No pun intended. But that's also way, like that's still in the back pocket. You know what I mean? Yes. Like, and I'm sure. Listen, you're gonna get Last of Us ported over there. Let's face it, you're going to get Ghost of Tsushima ported over there. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if for sure Red Dead's gonna get ported over. Red Dead 2. I mean, so like just think about that. They're gonna have plenty of content.
They're gonna have Skyrim too.
Oh, Skyrim's comes out on everything.
Skyrim is actually coming out on Samsung Watch next month, so it's gonna happen.
Yeah. So they're putting it in your girlfriends and wives now too. So Skyrim's coming to girlfriends.
Ooh. I'm sorry.
Beautiful.
Coming to girlfriends 2021 Skyrim. You're like, I don't even understand that. They're like, don't worry about it. Buy it. We'll all buy it.
Now, I wanna go into something that Mike said a little bit ago. That I'm in the same boat as him, and it's when it comes to video games or when it comes to any kind of medium, I don't like scary stuff. Not because I'm not brave, it's just that I'm a little bitch. But I don't like scary stuff. Like I run away. Most of the times when I watch something zombie related, stuff like that, is because I want to see what it has to offer. It be beyond the gore or anything like that. Now, and that's kind of what motivated me to try and play The Last of Us. It came with my PlayStation 3. I haven't played it. It's supposed to be something interesting, but I know it's going to be scary, so I don't want to play it. But then when you have a game that has gameplay where you're literally fighting for your life, you're counting every bullet, you're counting every shiv, you're running from every clicker, you're hiding, you're listening, that has you tense up. The fact that the story is so good that allows you to suffer through what scares you. That's not easy to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, the fact that you're able to move forward because you want to see where this plays out, where these characters are going, and if it's worth the trip that you're taking with them. And then finding out that even if at the end nothing ended how you wanted, and even though it hurts that it ended, you're satisfied because of the journey. The fact that these 10 to 20 hours that you spent with these characters meant something, which is very hard to do, especially in games nowadays, where a lot of them, not a lot of games focus on story as much as these games probably do. For example, I'm a big Destiny guy, so I play a lot of times when I play it, is because I have 30 minutes before I go to bed and just want to do something real quick and go. You know what I mean? It's not something that requires an investment from all my senses. This is the kind of game and experience that does that. And I think most good art does. Now, I wanted to ask you, do any of you guys have a favorite scene or favorite moment of the game?
I absolutely do, but I'll let the others go first.
What do you guys got? Mike, what you got?
Ooh, it's hard to nail down one moment because I'm going to be honest, I love every moment. But one moment that always hits me is the beginning, like the prologue with Joel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That one gets me every time. And I recently played maybe 2 weeks ago, and I forgot, like I legit forgot that was even a part of the game. I haven't played since like 2016 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I was an emotional wreck within like the first 30 minutes of this game.
Yeah.
And it's like, stop crying, Mike. You already know what the story is. You've beaten this before.
And you know what? You want to hear something interesting though? If you guys haven't never had a chance to watch the video, there's the documentary of the making of The Last of Us is on YouTube. It's called Grounded. It's a very interesting watch. And one of the things that I was able to find out was that whole sequence of the beginning with Sarah and Joel, that was something that they came up at the end of production. That wasn't the original way the game was supposed to start.
Interesting.
So that's one of those things that makes me go like, huh. That's so like they're actively finding ways, and that's and I think them starting from Sarah's perspective, it's a surprise already, because who you see in the front of the game, you see Ellie, and then you see Joel. You have no idea who the Sarah person is. Joel doesn't look at the person, so everything just catches you by surprise, like any good story does.
That many people consider to be unforgettable. Having recently beaten the game for the first time.
So, anybody got anything else? John, what you got?
This is going to be a strange choice. Now, I haven't played the game in a couple of years, so my memory is a little bit fuzzy. But this will be a strange choice in terms of my favorite scene, or one of my favorite scenes. And no, my favorite part is probably, again, strange pick. It's when David is gone, when we take care of David. I hated that guy. He's a creepy son of a bitch. I understand what happened to him. He's just trying to survive, and that's his idea of surviving, but he is evil scum. And I was so glad when Ellie took care of him. It's kind of a tragic moment because Ellie doesn't, she feels bad for killing someone. She doesn't, she feels remorse for that, but it's what she had to do. And when she gets rid of that guy and, he's not going to be bothering her anymore, threatening her anymore, I felt that was a very satisfying moment.
Yeah. Especially the moment where you see the idea of someone so young unloading this pain on this person, and you see the effect and understanding and those are the kind of moments where you forget that it's a game.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an actress doing this, because Ashley Johnson, Troy Baker, all these guys, Nolan North as David, like all these guys are amazing in everything they do, and I like how Naughty Dog is able to bring that performance out with everything that they do at their studios. That's a cool choice. That's a cool choice. I agree with you. Stupid cannibalistic bastard. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
That whole, honestly, in general, like that whole winter section of the game is just like unbelievable. Like that whole section is like a standout, for me, just like because you have that cliffhanger right before, when Joel falls on the rebar, and then you're like, what happened? And then in the beginning, you're just with Ellie, and you're like, oh my god, did they just kill Joel off? And it's not until she asks, she runs into David and the other guy, and she says, I want medicine, and then you go, oh, he's still alive, so that way that whole thing is done and is really good. That's a good.
And of course, when we first are introduced to David, he seems like a good enough guy and everything, but he shows us true colors later on.
Yep.
And it's funny. It's like everyone, and it's funny because throughout the whole game, everyone that you've met, is a piece of shit. So the way that he plays the role of David allows you to not think of him as that first.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it kind of shows us that a lot of human beings are gullible.
You know what it is too, though? I feel like it's like you run into them, and then like the first encounter goes like okay, and then you're like, it's almost like they try to like give you like a break. You're like, finally, I'm getting a break. Joel's hurt. All this bad stuff's been happening. Like finally, like a reprieve. And then the game just like, oh no, we're kidding. It's really bad. It's really bad now. And then you're like, oh my god, like it really plays with you. Like it really plays mind games.
Yeah, and part of what makes that final encounter with David so engaging is because of the cliffhanger with Joel. Like, all this time has passed. You don't know how long Ellie's been by herself, having to try and take care of Joel, having to find medicine to try and keep him alive. So it's like, when she unloads on David, you just feel all the stress and all the anger and rage that she has right now in that moment. Yep. So when Joel shows up, you breathe.
Right.
It's like, thank God they're finally back together.
No, and the way that they add the tension is because remember, when you're having this whole sequence with David, it's going between you playing as Ellie and you going through the snowstorm with Joel.
Yeah.
And it's switching into those two, where you have these two desperate characters. These two characters are tense and desperate to find each other or to get out of this situation. That it just continues to build and build until we all literally unload with Ellie, with what's going on, with that anger, with that necessity to survive. These are the rile up things that this game does. We should ban this game. No. It's gonna rile up the youngins. So Brett, you mentioned that you really enjoyed the winter, but is that your favorite section, or is your favorite scene here?
Yeah, no, it's not my favorite. It's definitely like I said, a standout moment. I'm gonna like maybe cheat and maybe try to sneak an extra one in here. But one of them, and I think this probably a lot of people will feel this, is the giraffe scene. Yeah. When they look out the window and you see the giraffes walking by, and it's like that's finally when the game gives you throws you a bone, and it's like, okay, here's a moment of beauty. You've earned it up to this point. What I mean? Like it is. It's like, if I remember correctly, I haven't played it actually since I first played it, because it's been sacred to me, and I just haven't I kind of want to go through it again, but I was thinking of maybe trying to rope my fiance into playing it, because I've told her about it, but she's never experienced the whole thing, and it's just we could do it on little baby story mode. I think they have that, and then you could just kind of coast through it.
Little baby
story mode. But yeah, that moment with the giraffes is definitely a standout. That's right before the home stretch, if I'm not mistaken, right before you get to the last
that happens right before you get to the Fireflies in St. Mary's Hospital. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, they trick you because you think it's going to be coasting from here, and then it gets messed up and dark.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think that's a standout, and my favorite though is honestly it's probably the ending. I know that I don't know if that's a cop out or anything, because the ending's the most amazing thing. But
whack.
Just that blue. Yeah, you're whack. That melted. It just melted my brain. That whole ending sequence, basically, when they basically from when you see them driving in the car until the end, right to the credits, that to me was just holy moly.
How about you, Rob? What you got?
I really like the ending. No, I'm just joking. Little backstory. Brett and I are very old friends, so
Yes.
if it wasn't obvious. No, let's see. Oh, well, the opening was already spoken about, which is a big one because at the time I only had my one daughter at the time, so you feel that one when you have a kid. That's a pretty
Mm.
powerful one when Sarah gets hurt because you instantly put yourself in that position because you can't help it. You just go, man, how would I feel? And then the minute before you're done asking the question, you feel your heart go, why are you going this way? And then you go, my bad, I'll stop thinking about that. So that was a tough one. So definitely, yeah, definitely the opening. But I thought one that was interesting, just because I don't know, maybe it was unexpected. I don't know, but I thought it was really interesting when Henry, with the two brothers, when Henry kills his brother Sam after he
Ooh, yeah.
attacks Ellie,
Dude.
because you see that Joel is consoling Ellie, and Henry's in the background like trying to come to grips with what just happened to the point that he can't come to grips with it and just offs himself. And I was just like, it was just happened so quick that I was like, whoa. Because like when you're watching a movie and there's that kind of when that kind of moment happens in a movie, it tends to be slow, where the person holds the gun to their head for a little while, and then they kind of like, have conversation while they're holding the gun to their head, trying to figure out what they're going to do. While in this game, it was just kind of like he just pulls up and just offs himself. So it didn't even give you a chance to think, oh God, no, don't do that. You just go, oh no, oh shit, well it just happened, and I could do nothing. I was powerless in what just happened. So I thought that was a very interesting moment. That, and I took a extreme enjoyment in eradicating every Firefly doctor at the end. I enjoyed that entirely too much.
Yeah.
Because even I think there's like 3 doctors that are in there when you walk in, like besides everybody that you come across, and you don't necessarily need to kill like those last 2 guys, and I didn't care. I took them all out. I didn't even care. I was like, sorry, you guys, not my baby, not my Ellie. Come on, Ellie, we're getting out of here. So the dad in me definitely kicked in that part. That's for sure.
You went full dad mode.
Oh yeah, totally. Full shotgun and everything. I was just like, oh boy.
So for me, I was going to mention 2. Rob, you mentioned one. Definitely that last part of that, I call it the Henry arc, where Sam literally, sadly, gets bitten and is turned, and Henry has to kill his brother, and it's shocking because you got to imagine that throughout that whole sequence of events, Joel, at that point of the story, they hated each other or didn't trust each other, but now they've built trust. Now they actually sat down and they're trading stories over dinner the night before. So they've identified with each other. And Joel, I know for a fact, in my imaginary brain, I don't have a brain, Joel and Henry see themselves as equals, as protectors of Ellie and Sam. And there is no way that Joel did not think, that is us. And if something happens to her, who's to say I won't do that? You know what I mean? Like, and then you're thinking about yourself like, it can go either 2 ways. Because to think of it, Ellie got bitten. It just happens to be that she's immune. So if it went a different direction, she got bitten and she turned, what will be the result? And it's like a way of the author of the director telling us, hey, this story could have gone many different ways. And a lot of times you can't predict what a person's going to do when tragedy strikes, which is what this game does over and over again. They play around with that idea that you don't know how someone's going to react when things go really bad. And that's where it breaks down the humanity of the thing. So yeah, I have to agree with you, Rob. That's one of my favorite scenes. Now, my favorite scene, and I was actually thinking about it while we were recording, because I think I was going to mention that one, but then I remember this one. And to me, it's the strongest scene in the game for me, because it's really where Joel realizes and chooses to accept how much she cares for Ellie. And it's the scene where Ellie runs away to the house,
Right.
and Tommy and Joel have to run towards her to find her. And then they have this dialogue where literally Ellie says, Joel tells Ellie, "You have no idea what loss is." And Ellie says, "Everybody that I've trusted and loved, it's either run away or dead. Everybody has left, anyone except you." And at that moment, you're like, okay. And at the end, he chooses to stay the course with Ellie as opposed to leaving her there.
Mm.
Like, he allows himself to accept the fact that he has gone in front of her, that he does see her as a daughter figure, even though it's really like a mentor more relationship. So that's where that relationship crystallizes. What gets to a head in the next chapter, which is when they escape the university, Joel gets hurt, and now Ellie's on the driver's seat taking care of Joel. Like, you see the different facets of this relationship become stronger, and that bond, and as that bond grows between them, your bond as a player grows with them, and I don't know, it's just, which makes the tragedy of the ending so much more crazy.
Right.
Because don't you find it interesting that at the very end, right, you are forced to make the horrible decision of sacrificing the world to save your quote unquote foster daughter, because one life shouldn't be enough to save humanity. Now, when you guys found out that this is where this game was going, because yes, we're thinking we can definitely make the argument that, oh, but there's the first immune person they found, maybe there are more, or no, what if they kill her and nothing happens? You know, you think of all these things, but at the end of the day, humanity, quote unquote, had a shot at a cure to this deadly fungal disease, and you said, not worth it. Her life means more.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an ethics question, but it makes you question, is the greater good more important than your immediate good and stuff like that? Brett already told us of the nightmares and nights with the bourbon, trying to survive, handling the tough questions. But when
waking up in cold sweats, knowing that humanity is over because of you. Good job, Brett.
And I am aware that this is not the only game that makes you make these crazy choices. Like, I know, like, one of the biggest surprises in gaming is like specs up the line when you find out that you're the one that's causing the war.
Like, if there's one that makes me want to drink, it's that one, and I hate that you just brought it back up because now I'm stressed.
I'm sorry. Well, did you know that our friend Brett sells liquor?
Yes.
I'm telling you, man, the reveal to that game drove me to drink. I was just like, I felt like such a garbage person. I was like, I'm a terrible human being. I don't know why I did this.
No,
and I hate the game made me do this. The game made me do it. I didn't do it. The game made me do it.
Well, that's like a one of the things that this game does that's so amazing. I mean, and I'll tie this. We'll get back into the ethics. I think in a way it's kind of like related, but the game makes you question your player agency and your control over the situations in the game, and like every decision you made by the end of that. Like, it's basically like at the end, like Joel is the villain. He chooses to be selfish and not get hurt again, instead of sacrificing one for the many. And they at the throughout the game, you're just going around, you're shooting people, you're killing people, and it's like we just do that because I'm the good guy. Obviously, I'm the main character, so I'm the good guy, and everyone else is the bad guys. Mm-hmm. And you go through and you just think, okay, I'm playing the game. But at the end, it was like you have to like rethink everything. It's like, did I really need to kill all those people? Like, I just shot them because like that's like what you expect in a game, but like maybe I didn't have to. Maybe like, and then at the end you have to just kill a bunch of doctors in cold blood, and you take away Ellie's choice and her agency as well. It's like it's a very like really horrible thing, but it's amazing that the game does it to the character and then also does it to you as the player, and that's what melted my brain by the end of it. I was like, I was like, I was complicit in that act, and like I just did it because I thought that's what I was supposed to do, and it's like I'm horrible. I'm an evil person.
And you can totally understand. You can totally understand. Sorry. You can totally understand why Joel would want to save Ellie at the end, though. It's because he has already lost his daughter, and he cannot lose another daughter.
Yeah, I mean, like, and you get that, and the game. And that's again another kudos to the game. Like the story does that part so well too, that you do really get that. But then you also have to look at but you might have possibly screwed the world.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how that kind of plays into The Last of Us Part 2. Because if this was a one-off game, you can kind of live with the questions of, well, maybe there was other people that they could have gotten a cure from, or yada, yada, yada. But now seeing the world of The Last of Us Part 2, and seeing that it looks like it's gotten worse and more violent, and Ellie still has to scrape by every single day.
Right.
It makes you rethink, like, yep, we made the wrong choice there, didn't we?
Right.
But then again, it also has to do with the idea of, and you see this in every quote unquote post-apocalyptic setting, is that it's all about studying humanity when all comforts are taken away, when it's all about survival. Because you could say, for example, if you're looking at this as Uncharted, you're Nathan Drake, you're the hero. You're trying to save the world from this crazy people that are trying to steal this artifact because you're Indiana Jones, right? So you're trying to save these people, but in The Last of Us, you got to kill these guys because they're going to shoot you at sight. They're going to kill you just because they want your stuff. They're going to kill you because you're not one of them. It becomes more of not necessarily of being good or bad, but more of, this is the way the world is now. Everybody just behaves as with their basic needs in mind, and if you're not there to fulfill it, get out of the way or die. Yeah. And you see that a lot in all these different worlds. And The Last of Us, it makes the decision that Joel makes even more crazy, because yes, you want to save her, but you're still allowing her to live in this world that is tearing itself to shreds.
Yeah.
So which is why I find it interesting, like Mike was saying, that as we transition into part 2, it's how this world that Joel denied saving is what's coming back to destroy what he tried to save.
Yeah.
And something to what you said, Mike, that I don't agree with. I don't think they're scraping by, because remember, Joel and Ellie live in Jackson, which is this safe zone that is legitimately safe. They just go out for supplies from time to time, a la Walking Dead, but they live in this place that's safe, where people are going to schools, people watch movies, people have dance parties, like we saw in the E3 showcase. Like, they're living a peaceful life. Everything else is all messed up. And you have these rival factions, this military movements happening in Seattle, and everything that takes place in the game. But it's all about that, because they live in this world, she's still in the world itself, doesn't have a chance to recover. But then again, it makes you think about, let me throw the idea out there. Yes, Joel sacrificed the world, but can a world like this be saved? Because of how bad it has gotten. Mm-hmm. Look at it this way. It's been 20 years since the world, and as of The Last of Us Part 1, I think they're going to, you imagine they start putting Part 1 on the label? As of Last of Us Part 1, it's been 20 years. That's where the game starts, 20 years since the pandemic. Fireflies are considered a discredited militia that is always saying to fight with a cure, go against the government, blah, blah, blah. Who's going to believe that there is a cure, even if they discover it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
Because right at this moment, the state of mind of the world is, I don't have time to listen if you have a cure or not. I have to be worried about you're going to try and kill me or not. So in a way, even though we can't necessarily agree with Joel's actions, I'm not saying that Joel had. I'm not saying he did or did not have the philosophical ideas that we're having, but like he actually sat down and read Nietzsche. No, so, but is the whole thing about when the world breaks down in that matter? Is there salvation for it, or do you try to have the best life you can? Which is probably what Joel was thinking, because as long as he was having a good life with Ellie, everything should be fine. But because I think, which is part of the struggle, like when you see the scenes, like whoever's seen a trailer or a picture or a still of Joel, he looks older because this game only takes, I think part 2 only takes place 6 years after part 1.
Is it 5? 5 maybe?
Is it 5 or 6? Because I know Ellie's 19. Oh, so
yeah,
it's 5,
she was 13 in the. Oh, wasn't she 13 in the last?
She was 14. She was 14.
Okay, so yes, that works out. Yeah.
Yeah, so 5 years. So, but you see, Joel, his age is starting to show. But more than anything, he's like this broken down man. Because do you guys know the base premise of the game?
I've been trying to go in knowing as few details as possible.
Okay.
Personally.
Well, in regards to why Ellie is doing what she's doing in the game, do you guys know why?
Oh, there seems to be a catalyst. Yes, that has been shown in like one of the trailers. Yes.
Do you guys know the catalyst? You don't want to know. Okay, so there's something that happens with Ellie that disrupts her happiness, and she literally sets out to draw blood. So this literally is a game about vengeance.
Well, is that 100% confirmed, or that's just we're assuming that?
Well,
based on what we've been shown?
That's what we have seen based on the footage that we've seen in the clip, not the clips, but in the trailers.
Right. Yeah.
Like when you see the story trailer, it literally seems like that because all the talk in it from Ellie is, "Are we going to let him get away with this?" And it's her leaving the safety of Jackson to not let them get away with this.
Right.
Whatever that is. And I think the most graphic one is the commercial that I share with you guys, because as she's singing the song, you see the little features, stuff like that, and it's like her against this world. That's crazy. And Joel is broken because he knows that this kind of world, if you're trying to go against it, you may not win.
Well, also, I think listen, Joel, like when we pick up from Last of Us Part 1, he's done some shit. Like, think about all the killing that you do as him over the course of the game, and then also consider that he also was doing that for 20 years prior, smuggling, probably like almost dying a million times. Like, so that guy, I think he doesn't want that life for Ellie, and maybe he feels guilty that he let her, stay alive, like you were saying, maybe, and that she now has to experience this horrible world, and now she's like, just down this horrible path of endless violence. The cyclical violence is cyclical. Yeah. Revenge is poison.
Yep. And one of the most crazy statements that Joel makes. Do you guys remember I call it the Hunter's arc, is when you go to that city that's filled with these people that kill travelers.
Right.
So when he's driving, he recognizes this guy's not hurt. What do you mean? And he runs the guy over. And then after the first bout that you have with the enemies, and let's not call them enemies, with the people, Ellie asked, "How did you know he wasn't hurt?" And it was like, "Because I've been that guy."
Right.
And Joel says, like, "I've been that guy. Like, I've stole from people to survive," which is the reason why Tommy left Joel in the first place. Why Tommy left him alone, because he couldn't live that life where you would live destroying other people.
Yeah, Joel sounds like Joel got a little crazy with it. Maybe he got a little blood hungry.
Yep. And finally, with Ellie, he finds a reason to kind of step back from all that, but then sees that he allowed Ellie to flourish into this person, and pretty much whatever hell Ellie is raising, it's literally the nurture that Joel has given Ellie.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you've brought to the world. This is what you saved for the world, which is pretty daunting. When you guys first heard that this game was coming out, because everybody that knows The Last of Us, I think we can agree that there was a consensus that nobody wanted a sequel.
Yeah, that's
Like-
how I felt. I was like, I don't
Yeah,
need a
like-
sequel. It's perfect. It's just
Exactly.
done. I mean, just like random detour right here, quick. But if any of you guys watched Watchmen on HBO that just came out, and like knowing that supposedly at this point is just a one-off, like it was awesome. Like knowing that there's nothing else, like that's the contained story. And yeah, when I first heard they were doing the sequel, I kind of was like, oh no, like. But at the same time, I loved those characters so much that I do want to see more of them. And
Exactly.
and I also like. Yeah, I mean, like obviously, I'm assuming the game has to address the ending of the first game. Like they, I mean, it's clear. I don't know. I don't know. It's maybe open for interpretation. But how did you guys feel about the end of the first game? Do you feel that Ellie did know Joel was lying and was just taking it, or did you think that she believed him?
I think she knew he was lying.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
You can kind of read it on. You can kind of see it on her face, and
the way she says "okay" is like, yeah, it just sounds like, oh, all right, I'm just gonna go along with it, I guess. But like, that was her also like accepting that she's being lied to by like another adult. Like, so it's almost like she loses him in that way. It's yeah, that's how
I don't know. I don't know. I kind of took it as like, yeah, I do agree that I feel that she knew, but at the same time, it's better to embrace the lie.
Right. She's just gonna go with it.
yeah,
Like, yeah, but not in the sense that she feels like he's being purposely deceptive. You know what I'm saying? Like she knows why he's creating the lie, and she's okay with that.
That's exactly.
So-
I agree with you, Rob. It's like she was trusting his intentions. Like
Right,
she could see why he's lying, and
Exactly.
she was okay. I see why you're doing it. I'm gonna go with you.
It's kind of like her growing up herself, because again, she's only
Right.
what, 14.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Things look a little shaky with them though, and some of the stuff they've showed. Like I've seen very little of the stuff. Like the I haven't watched like any of like the really new trailers. But some of the stuff that you've seen with Joel, it does seem like they're maybe a little on the outs. So I don't know. I mean, I mean, like.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if I would blame it on that, because at the same time we are
Right.
talking about a 14-year-old girl, and now we're seeing her as a 19-year-old woman.
Right. Yeah, and
You
5
know,
years of
it's
stuff that we
like-
don't know what happened.
Like for 5
Right.
years for Joel is not compared to the same 5 years that she's experienced.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
five years for her at 14 to 19 is monumental compared to his 30-something to 30-something. Like to him, those are blips on the map. But she's gone
Right.
through milestones in those 5 years. So I think she herself maybe has come to her own, and maybe while at the end of Last of Us she was okay with the lie, now at 19 she's created her own set of morals and now is not necessarily okay with the lie. Know what I mean?
So I want to ask you guys a question right quick. Speaking of Ellie and that decision, if they gave her a choice, because remember, she has basically no say in any of this, do you think she would have gone through with it?
I mean, I think there's a point where she makes a pretty big point in the game that like that is what she wants. Like that was her intention. I know it's like I wonder if like when she walked in the room though, right? If she was awake, would she be like, "Okay, I want to back out now"? But like she makes a pretty big statement that that's what she wanted, and that's why it is so poignant when Joel just basically says like, "Well, fuck your decision. I'm selfish, and I'm taking that away from you. I'm doing what I want." But I don't know. That's a good point. I mean, you never know like what someone's gonna do right at the moment,
Right, because Joel goes into that. He takes her all the way to the hospital, but once he finds out that it's going to result in her death, that's when he goes crazy. And it's like, if she knew ahead of time that she wasn't going to make it out of there, would she have still committed to it?
Yeah.
Because you can't say that she knew. No, there's no evidence that shows that she knew that finding out whether or not the cure was behind her brain, was inside her brain. She didn't know what would cost her life, because that is one of those things. You think she thinks she was going to a doctor to get a checkup and to see what she could contribute to a cure. She didn't know she was sacrificing herself for the world.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. If
So
she knew all
that does change the game, which is one of those things.
Sure.
She was just the pawn between the views of two adults. Which is why it makes it so interesting how she's front and center in part 2, and it's all about her decisions, her choices, her agency. And like you said, I think you and Rob were kind of teasing this. Like, we don't know if they're in the outs because of the lie, but
Right.
you have to agree. You have to think that at some point, Joel, having going to those lengths to protect her, he's going to still try to do the same thing, and it's possibly Ellie letting him know, you can't try and protect me all the time anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
it's very true.
I'm not the same little girl that you smuggled 5 years ago. Like, you either gonna let me do what I need to do and go home, or whatever. You know what I mean?
And she's, I'm an adult. I'm not a part of this system.
While we're on the topic of Ellie, I was going to ask, did any of you guys play the Left Behind DLC?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually didn't.
I did not.
Yeah,
Why?
it's basically a prequel with Ellie and her friend Riley.
Yeah, I know like the whole like just I know like behind it, but I never played it just because The Last of Us was just like such like emotionally draining. Like I've been even like I've been like saying to my fiance, I'm like, Last of Us 2 comes out next week. I'm like, I don't know if I'm like ready, like because I know I'm gonna be like probably like depressed in real life for like the entire length of me playing the game, because I remember it was just like it was so heavy, man, and this one looks even more harrowing and heavy, and like you know like the upgrades they've made and like the realism they've added to like the the visceralness of the combat, you know what I mean, is like
Yeah.
it's draining, man. Like you like when you play that for like a bunch of hours, man, it like affects you. It does.
When you play that game, it's funny because we brought up Uncharted a few times. Like, you can just mow down armies in Uncharted as Nathan Drake.
He's a mass murderer, and he's like just smiling and grinning through the whole thing, and we're like, we're cool with it. Yeah, he's getting treasure. He needs to kill these people. It's okay. He needs that treasure.
Damn these Nazis now.
Right? And then you get into The Last of Us, and you have like 10 bullets, and need to make sure you take out 11 clickers.
Yeah, I got 10 bullets, and I gotta kill 11 of these dudes.
And so you got to strategize how you, because we all play the game differently. Like, I'm sure I made it through some segments without having to kill anyone, whereas John, for instance, probably had to take out 3 or 4 guys. And
How did you know?
And so it's just, like you said, it's just draining because you really feel like you're in that situation. Whereas some games, as much as I love Uncharted, if you die and start over, okay, you have 200 bullets, 50 guys, you can make that work. Yeah. This game, you have to scrape for everything. I'm holding on.
But it becomes more of a, but what gun do I want to use? That's the tough. Those are the tough moments, man.
Right. No, and not only that, is like when you're playing it, you're like, okay. And it's funny because you become this, it's one of these games that to a degree makes you become an expert on its mechanics, because not all games do that. Some games will tell you, hey, you can do all this, and you're like, okay, I never used it. You know what I mean? Like, I never used this or this mechanic. This particular game makes you use all the mechanics, and I love how when I was far advanced in the game, okay, I got the shotgun. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I got this loaded. I'm going to put this in my second holster. Let me make 2 Molotov cocktails. I have enough healing. Okay, cool. I'm going to throw this bomb here and then walk around. You know what I mean? Like, you start thinking about all this thing. Like, my favorite sequence is, like, when you get to Seattle after the giraffes, you have to go through the subway to the tunnels where the subways are, and you have a lot of infected in there. And going through that in different ways to clear them all and beat them all, and you have 2 bloaters, and it was so it's crazy how you find it so entertaining because the combat system allows you to clear a stage in so many different ways with so few resources. That's pretty remarkable. That's pretty remarkable. Which leads me to what I saw. I don't know if any of you guys saw the extended. There was a state of play that they did. I would say 2 to 3 weeks ago, where they did an extended playthrough of a section of the game, and they explain a lot of the mechanics and a lot of things that they've improved. And I like how this game doesn't feel like I am dredging through familiar gameplay and story elements. It feels like they're evolving from what they did before. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like a natural progression of everything that we've seen. With the upgrade system has been evolved, how do you interact with the environments, because you have a completely different character. Because so many games can just make it as similar as a lot of the worst sequels are the sequels that feel the same as what came before, even though the story is different. This game is not that game, and I think Uncharted is one of those series that you see that a lot with every entry. There's so much more that you can do now.
Yeah.
And that's what you want with every game. And I like how this game from the get-go, from the promotion, feels like it's going to be a lot more intense because it's a more personal take, because it's Ellie and you know that she's going through this personal stress and everything she's going through. So it doesn't feel like I'm carrying my expectations from Last of Us 1 to here. It feels like it should, like a separate chapter, something that I can enjoy separately from what came before, even though what came before informed it. Does that make sense?
Right.
So, which is what it needed to be, which is the only reason why we're accepting the sequel. Because I know that if we saw those trailers and it felt like it was more of the same, it would have been like, no.
Well, they said like Neil Druckmann said, like, we wouldn't do it if we didn't think like we had a great idea and like we knew we could do it justice. And so I'm just hoping it is, but like I'm keeping my expectations tempered for the story just because like I don't know how you top the first one. I don't think you do top it. You have to just like, you know, do something different, and that's like, you know, poignant, you know, and cathartic in some way. I mean, I don't know if they're going to plan to do a 3 after this or something like that. I mean, we don't know how this thing ends yet. So, I mean, you know, and it looks like obviously like it would be silly for them to do a 3 and then like just all of a sudden change characters unless like everyone dies at the end or something. So it's like,
correct.
You might as well like
it would make sense. Yeah,
this thing should be, you know, like a pretty closed end story. I mean, I don't know. I'm expecting the worst for like everybody. I don't know. It's like I feel like, is there going to be any joy that comes out of this? I don't know.
Yeah. I also feel that I'm gonna. I don't know if I'm ready for this either, but I'm gonna say something here. Kudos to PlayStation for doubling down on their female leads, bro.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like
Agreed.
front and center, and I like how Ellie feels like such a real layered character, and the other characters that you see. I mean, we had an amazing lead with Aloy. Now we have Ellie in a different point of her life. She ended PS3 and she's going to end the PS4. Isn't that funny? As the female lead in PlayStation. I want to see. I want to see more. We need more.
Ellie is so badass, man. She's cool.
Yeah,
she is such an awesome character.
I mean, overall, I mean, personally, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I like games whether they have male or female roles, but for me, a female protagonist, I feel, brings a different kind of emotion to the game. I don't know why, but I feel more connected when the lead is a female. I don't know why. And I feel like maybe it is because they usually tend to add some kind of emotional element to it, as opposed to a guy who sees kind of like, oh, I found a weapon, let me go and like live
you know what?
game now.
Nothing.
You know what I'm saying?
You're right, Rob. Like, I feel like every guy is either like the really stoic guy that always just talks like monotone like this, and he's just always stoic, or he's like just like Duke Nukem basically, and he's just like, yeah, man, I just want to kill everybody, yeah.
So much.
And like
he's either
just like
gung ho, or he's either like just too cool for school, like super overly charismatic, you know, or he's like, man, I'm a troubled guy and I can't help doing what I gotta do because that's why I'm here. It's like
there's always tropes like that, but Naughty Dog avoids a lot of that, you know, like,
but like, you know, Aloy, she was an outcast. Who can't connect to something like that? She was an outcast. She tried to do whatever she could to be part of the tribe and try to be the best and show that she can do the same as everybody else just so that she can be recognized by the people that she's there with. And she just didn't understand, like, how can you, like, that's such a more human connection. Like, that's something we've all understood, that we've all felt to some capacity about something, you know, or Jesse Faden in Control. I thought she was a phenomenal character. I thought she was great. And her whole drive in the game had nothing to do with her. She just wanted to get her brother. She just
Right.
wanted to know where he was at. She just wanted to know what they did to him. That was her entire drive for everything that happened to her in the game. Mind you, in the game starts off with, by the way, you're the shit. Like they tell you that from the beginning. You're the director of this crazy company. And she's like, I just walked in here. What are you
Right.
talking?
Yeah, control
I'm
is
just
great.
trying to find my brother, and that is, the purpose of her character throughout the entire game. And then and now we got Ellie, who's now a younger female lead. She is a teenager, who we've, to some capacity have felt through Life is Strange. Anybody who's played Life is Strange, those were young teenage characters going through your usual teenage tropes, but you felt it. You felt the confusion of being a teenager in these situations and these crazy supernatural things that are happening. So I just feel like when they have a female protag, developers really take care to humanize who they are and and take a really great magnifying lens on the emotional aspect of the character, as opposed to, are his pecs big enough, are his legs long enough to wear these cool mechanical boots so he could jump further. It's like they don't care about the male protag because he's gonna sell anyway.
Yeah. They often make the female characters so much more interesting and layered, like you said.
Yeah,
You know what?
so
But you know what's
dynamic.
funny? And you say, and I don't know why, but and I don't mean to sound controversial or whatever, but it makes you think, like it may be that they give extra care because some developers or some companies might have the misconceived notion, the misogynistic notion that if a female is the lead, the game's not going to sell as well, so they have to make her more interesting.
No, yeah, I'm sure that affects stuff.
I would agree to that to a capacity, but I think it's that we are now starting to see the change of what it's like to have more women in game development.
Yes, and I think this is the exception. Like the different female leads that we've talked about are the exception because they've developed these characters to make them as real as possible, and they haven't seen the character being a woman as a flaw, but something that they can use to their advantage for the storytelling, which is what you're supposed to do. What I mean? Use all the aspects of the character, even the idea that she is part of the LGBT community, that she, she's, all those things. They don't feel out of play; they feel organic, and they push the story forward, which is what you want in a good character, whether they're male or female.
100%. Which I think was one thing that I feel like they kind of and we could get off the topic in terms of other games, but this is where I kind of feel like they dropped the mark in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where Ubisoft gave you the option to play as Cassandra or Alexios. Of course, I played as Cassandra. What I didn't like is that further into the game, you come across a point where you end up marrying a character, but you're forced to marry the opposite sex. And I didn't like that. I had no control in who I wanted to marry. I actually really didn't like that. And I felt like had they given you more control in that respect, I think it would have driven the game better. Because the minute that happened, it was such a jarring, obvious lack of control, considering how much control I had over the game, that losing that bit of control sucked me out of the experience.
I remember there was some discourse about that on the internet, and then if I'm not mistaken, I think they did an update and they might have changed something so that it's like you don't have to marry the person at the end. I think they did some kind of edit.
The choice of not marrying them, as opposed to being forced to marry them.
Yeah. But then again, is that really a solution? Wouldn't the solution be?
It doesn't answer the problem. That's a Band-Aid, but it's not a solution.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting because they really could have gained a lot of points had they just added, a couple more options in terms of being able to give you the choice, as opposed to just being like, well, of course a woman's going to marry a guy. It's ancient Greece. It's like, sorry, people in ancient Greece were as They were
They were
straight
fluid. Yeah.
Yo, gender fluid as hell. They were like, that dude looked good. I'm a smash. That chick looked good. I'm a smash. They did not care.
Who's that one guy in the game that one idiot that like
Smash
he
Brothers
sleeps with
Odyssey.
everybody?
Yeah, it was great. I was like, that's the ancient Greece that I learned about. I don't know what Ubisoft is talking about. Maybe they're just being pretentious French people, but all right, whatever.
Listen, I played as Cassandra and I smashed everyone, regardless.
Everybody.
Everybody got smashed.
If sleeping with them was a choice, I was getting it.
Yep.
Spoken like true men.
My Cassandra's a playgirl, yo. She was a hustler. She didn't care about
Yeah.
Are we still talking
what
about
you wanted.
strong female leads? No.
Yes.
Damn right.
Damn. Now, okay, so this is the moment that we're all dreading. Predictions. Yeah, I know. But we got to do it. We can't just bring about all the good stuff that we loved about The Last of Us. Can't talk about how excited we are with The Last of Us Part 2. And not talk about what we think is going to happen with these characters that we know and love. We know there's going to be a lot of new characters. There's going to be a lot of new threats. We talked about how the gameplay has evolved from the first one. But story-wise, we know this is Ellie, front and center. She is going to be the person that we're going to be following through and fro in this game. Now, I know some people have probably seen the leaks and know whatever they've seen of. Neil Druckmann stated and put out a statement that you may hear this or that, but it's not going to compare to playing the game, which I believe. But I do have some ideas or predictions or where this game was going, or where Ellie and Joel's story ends in this game. And I want to hear what you guys think. Do you guys have an idea, a prediction, a notion?
I only have one prediction, and that's that her love interest is going to end up she's going to end up biting it.
Okay.
I don't know how, but
Do you think that's the catalyst to Ellie's arc?
I don't think that's the catalyst, but I think that might be just something in addition to. Because if you notice something in The Last of Us, I feel like they have issues that compound on top of other issues. It's not just the one thing. It's like there's the one thing, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then that happens.
And
it's
everything fuels the one goal.
Exactly. So they get layered with just a giant shit mountain, and I feel like that will definitely be a piece of it. Just because, if we're going by story, you can put a registered trademark on that shit mountain.
Shit mountain. That was awesome. That was actually perfect.
My shit mountain. So I think that'll be a part of it. I just I would like to be wrong, because I feel like that's an obvious way to go, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes obvious is not bad.
That's true. Yeah.
As long as it's
depending how they execute it.
Exactly. Which I think that Naughty Dog we can give them the credit that they deserve an opportunity to try stuff. So, what you got, Mike?
As far as predictions, I don't have many. I would say we play as someone else besides Joel and Ellie in this game. I would say, since it is a 5-year time jump, like how we would occasionally bounce between Joel and Ellie, you might bounce between Ellie and maybe her love interest or another character that's with her on that journey that we just haven't seen yet.
Okay. Red.
Predictions. I mean, I definitely think like someone's gonna probably bite it, right? Joel or Ellie. I think by the end of this game. Will. Yeah, and I don't know how it's gonna happen really, or I can't imagine, but I feel like something's got to go down there, or maybe someone just takes like a really dark turn. I don't know, like there's like a big betrayal or something like that. But honestly, I don't know what's gonna happen to this game. I'm so nervous.
John, what you got?
Yeah, it's got a lot to live up to for sure. But I was going to say my prediction is I have a feeling Joel will make it out of the game alive. I don't know how he will bite it, but I just feel like he's going to either like sacrifice himself or something like that at some moment in the game. And yeah, I think it will, explore kind of how Ellie is transitioning, as becoming like a young adult, and how she's kind of dealing with growing up, in a world where she can't experience what most people, her age usually would, how she's dealing with that in the post-apocalypse. And obviously I think they will tackle just kind of how she is dealing with the repercussions at the end of the first one.
So, as you guys know, I like to complicate things. That's just what I do.
Buckle up, boys.
So
Brandon's about to pull out a thesis, guys.
Yes, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's what I do. This is my flashpoint. It's my show, damn it.
You will sit and you will listen.
Did you guys have a chance to listen to the song?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the song's name is True Faith. And it literally talks about this blinded believer that is willing to sacrifice anything and everything for what she believes. So because of that song, the way it's played, the things I've seen in the little trailers that I've seen, I think Ellie bites it.
Okay.
I think she's gonna focus so much on her mission, on what she wants to achieve, that she ends up sacrificing herself. And then the series is going to wrap with Joel having to live with the fact that even though he sacrificed the world, she still died.
That's so terrible.
That would be hard.
I know,
so Ellie will bite it, but Joel will continue.
Joel will survive.
Yeah,
Joel will survive.
Okay. Huh.
That's a twist.
I think
it's a pretty cool twist considering that she is being spearheaded as the main, figurehead of the game. That will definitely be an interesting twist.
Yeah,
thinking that you start technically, I don't want to count Sarah. You start as Joel and as Ellie, continue as Ellie and as Joel, and how it brings everything full circle as a player. And just how you were left with Ellie accepting Joel's lie, you end with living with Joel's lie. And how what he's sown onto Ellie produces the chaos that either tears their world down or tears her down. And there's nothing he can do about it. Because
I would say if she does die, I will be bawling like a little baby.
Yeah.
and you know what's funny? I was in that Wire article, Neil Druckmann said something very interesting that I find it ballsy, and he goes like, I've had a lot of people playtest the game and tell me that they hate it. And the fact that he's getting a reaction out of the player, that's enough for him, which makes me even wonder, like, what the hell are we going to getting ourselves into?
Right.
The fact that you're able to walk out of a game and hate it, but the fact that it made you experience these things is just because you hate it doesn't mean it's not a win.
I hope the whole game is just like Ellie going after the Fireflies for revenge, and then when she gets finally to like the head honcho, it's Crash Bandicoot. and then he's been the mastermind. He's like, you know what? He's been like a warlord over the Pacific Northwest.
It's either
So you know that meme of
the author of
Ron Swanson. You know that meme of Ron Swanson throwing out his computer? That's what I'm doing right now. If that's what she's
It's not going to be Crash Bandicoot. It's going to be Nathan. It's going to be Nathan Drake. He's going to be there. He's going to be sitting there waiting.
Did they confirm that they're in the same universe,
Nathan.
or they never did that?
No, it's going to be Nathan in his couch playing Crash Bandicoot.
All comes full circle.
There you go. I like that.
It's a Naughty Dog going like We are the troll of humanity.
It'd be crazier if it was Nathan Drake playing The Last of Us Part 2 at the end.
Actually, that would be really interesting to see because I don't
Wait.
remember if you got. I'm dating myself a little here, but in the Wayne's World movies, at the end, you remember how they had those multiple endings? I feel like a game should do that. Like they should have like a whacked out ending that makes you go, wait, what? And then it goes, okay, now for the real ending, and then you actually play through the real ending.
So let me get this straight. So Mike Thomas is telling us that the ending is going to go Last of Us pulling out of Spaceballs when they look into the video of the video of the video
Exactly.
of the video. And then you're going Wayne's World?
I think so.
I don't know which one
We're
is better.
going with
Both
the
very
movie.
good ideas.
If we're going with the movie ending, I think that one would be fun.
No, it zooms out and it's just a TV
I will
show
say
that
Mike's is better
Nathan Drake's
than mine.
watching. Is The Last of Us.
Oh, let's talk about that. What did you guys think? That's a great way to end this. What did you guys think when you heard that Neil Druckmann is working with the creator of Chernobyl with HBO to do a Last of Us show?
Bro, I'm so happy. I'm so happy they're going to do because you know why? Because like people that aren't gamers are going to finally get to experience the story of the first game. They're adapting the story of the first game. So like, and it's HBO, you know they're going to do it right. I can't wait to see casting. They're getting all the right people involved. Like I don't know how you fuck this up, to be honest.
Right. But then again, the guy from Lost didn't make Watchmen. So
right.
So, you know, it can go really bad. but yeah, it's one of, but let me ask you this. Will it affect the experience, the fact that you're not playing it though?
I think, I mean, if the writing, listen, we know the story is good.
Mm-hmm.
So if the writing holds up, I mean, you know, because I'm sure they're going to like, actually there's a question I want to ask everybody too in a moment, but I'm sure if the writing holds up, and I'm sure they'll add like some new parts and new dialogue and whatnot, I think it's a home run. I don't see how this goes bad.
I'm going to choose to believe you, Brett.
Yeah.
I think that is asking a much more generalized question, that if you can make a true to form film or show that is based on a game, I feel that it is next to impossible to get the same feel and reaction from the two, because in the show you're not, you know, and we spoke about this earlier in the pod, you're not in the show. You don't feel like you're a part of the show. You're watching the show unfold. You're watching it happen, and you can feel for these characters and you can be attached to them. But in a game, and more so because of how well Naughty Dog has done their games, you immediately feel part of the experience. So you actually have an emotional investment into the game because you feel like you are now a character in the game.
Right.
Even if it's just an ethereal one that's just kind of, you know, watching as things unfold. So I feel like
Link's Fairy.
Not to say that it's going to be bad. Like, I think it could actually be an absolute fantastic series if they really listen to, you know, Naughty Dog and really take care to drive the points of the game. I feel like it can be really great for somebody who didn't play the game. But I think it's going to be one of those things where we'll see the show and we'll be like, oh, but the game was better. You know, it's going to be that, oh, the movie was great, but the book was better. It's going to be that kind of thing for us.
I'm just excited for people.
Don't know The Last of Us. I think they're going to be like, wow, this was a video game. I think that would be cool, because then it shows how mature games actually are to people that have no frame of reference about video games.
Right.
You know?
And the fact that they got the Chernobyl guy behind it gives me a lot of optimism.
I haven't seen Chernobyl, but it's supposed to be like something freaking epic.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either, but I've heard nothing but great things. So,
are you guys cool if they change some stuff, or do you want it to be exact 1-to-1?
I don't necessarily want it to be exactly like the game, because the game already is kind of a movie. or a miniseries in it of itself. So I wouldn't mind them changing a little bit so it kind of differs. It doesn't feel like I'm just wasting my time watching something that I played already, or watched when I was playing it. But I hope they stay true to the story and don't change too much either.
Yeah, I hope they keep the major beats and like some of just like the big moments. Like honestly, like I feel like I need to have that giraffe moment. Like the ending better not be changed at all.
Right.
The intro
like
is legitimately perfect. Like the intro
like
to
all
the
the
game
high
is
level
perfect.
beats and all the high level moments should be kept. But how they get to those points, I feel like they could take creative license because there may be storytelling things that they can do in terms of writing it as a show, because they're going to have to introduce other characters besides the ones that we know. Like that's just something every show does. I think they could take some creative liberties just to spice it up for us.
I do think the pilot episode will center entirely on that the first chapter of the game with Otter and everything.
Well, that's the thing. If you're going to do a show, you don't start the game with the death of Sarah. That's a flashback. That's something that happens when you're discovering Joel. I mean, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you meet Joel as you don't know who this guy is. You don't know why he has an axe to grind or whatever. And as you get him involved with Ellie, he has a flashback of his daughter dying. And then you understand. Because that's, to me, that's going to be the greatest challenge that they're going to have, because all the emotional beats of the game are built for a gamer. Mm-hmm. They work because you're playing. They work because the control is in your hands, because you're moving the characters. So it all has to do with them translating that to a simple visual format. And the question that what worries me, not that worries me, is that because it's a game, it works as a story where you're comfortably following these two characters and everything else is peripheral. And a show is a lot harder. Like, if you don't have really strong leads, it's going to be very hard to have a whole episode where it's them just venturing into this wilderness and encountering the infected and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I could just see the first episode just being kind of establishing the father daughter dynamic between Joel and his daughter Sarah, and then they hit you with a freight train at the very end of it. I could kind of see it.
They can something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm apprehensive. I mean, I'm excited that it's going to happen, because I agree with you, Brett, 100%. It's the best that could happen to the show is happening. And Neil Druckmann's involved, Naughty Dog's involved,
and I'm happy it's a series and not a movie.
Exactly. Like, it has everything going for it.
Like, bro, dude, you do the seasons. And how does the game? Is the game summer, fall, winter, spring? Is that how it goes?
Right.
Like, just honestly, maybe do like 4 episodes that are like an hour and a half long each. Like how they do Sherlock on BBC.
Yes.
Where it's just like it's like 4 movies for a season. Or you could probably do like, let's say like 6 to 8 episodes. Let's say 8 episodes, and you do 2 episodes in each season. You know, at like 45 minutes each or something like that, or an hour each. And I think you can totally make that work. I love the way they break it up with the seasons, you know, and advance some of the relationship building, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they adapt this, because this is the first video game that's going to get its story directly adapted. Like, we've had like video game movies and series, but I don't remember an actual story like The Last of Us being adapted.
I think I know what you're saying. Like, it's not an adaptation of ideas of the game. Like, they're literally translating the story of the game.
It's like an anime and a manga. Where you take the story directly, whereas you can make the Super Mario Brothers movie has nothing to do with Super Mario the video game, or Tomb Raider. It's not necessarily based on a story from one of the Tomb Raider games. It takes elements from different games. So I'm really interested to see how they decide to adapt the story of The Last of Us. And it's probably the best story for them to actually try something like that with.
Yeah.
I think I have the last question. Unless you guys have anything else to add?
No, I'm okay.
I
Yeah, I
think
think
we hit everything.
So I think I have the last question. The question of all questions. Who's your Joel and who's your Ellie?
Oh,
I was hoping you'd
yikes.
ask that.
I needed to. I'm sorry.
honestly, Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson.
Nah,
but
Troy
I mean, they
Baker's
don't
too
look the part,
skinny.
obviously. But I
He's
mean,
too tiny.
no, I
He's a pretty
wouldn't.
boy.
I wouldn't want them cast in the show. But I mean, like they are Joel and Ellie, and they're the best.
No, but didn't I
Oh.
tell you, Brett? They're doing the show in CG. No.
Are they gonna see you?
So I guess I'll start off. For Joel, I would go with Dylan McDermott from American Horror Story.
Mm.
Okay.
And for Ellie, I would have Caitlin Dever from Booksmart.
Oh, I actually didn't see either of those movies, so I'm not really that familiar with those people.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, I know her. I remember her from Last Man Standing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's actually a really good one. I like her. She got a spunk to her. Yeah, that's a good one.
Is she too old? Because she would basically be playing Ellie's age now in part 2, not 14-year-old Ellie, right?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I feel like that's one of those things that they kind of slide when they do shows. I mean, she's only 23 in real life, so she could play teenager to a capacity.
Right.
Yeah,
Depends how they dress her. They could dress her in a certain way. I mean, overall, Ellie, the way Ellie was dressed, I mean, was pretty, kind of thrown together as should be in a post-apocalyptic world. So they could pass her off.
Mm-hmm.
That where they could just tap Disney. Disney has every child actor in the planet. So be like, yo, Disney, you got a couple 14 to 19-year-olds we could borrow? Thanks.
I'm going to be the basic guy, and I'm just going to say Hugh Jackman and Daphne Keane, because why not?
I love
your
the
movie,
Jackman.
bro. It's your series, dude. Pick it.
I would definitely say Hugh Jackman. I just feel like that's too easy of a choice.
Right.
That's true.
Okay. What you got, Brett?
You're gonna hate me. All right. I'm not
John
even
Hamm.
I'm John
Ready your
Hamm. I was gonna
guns,
say
boys.
John Hamm. I'm not even really serious about it, but also maybe. And then honestly for Ellie, I have no idea. Like I don't know of any young girl actresses really, so I'm lost.
But John
So
Hamm was-
Zendaya.
Yeah.
Yeah, when in doubt, go with Zendaya.
Yes. I mean, I hope they kind of find like a
Yeah,
nobody
Yeah.
for Ellie, like not
Yes.
like a no name. Like find somebody that's like really fits the part, and then like Joel, you might want to have Joel be someone that like is like an anchor or a star.
Correct.
Yeah. So I don't know. Who he is? I don't know. It's so tough.
Mm.
I don't know.
What you got, Robinator?
For Joel, I would pick Luke Evans. I think he got a great look.
Oh.
I think he definitely has the acting chops to pull it off. Yeah, I think he would be awesome as Joel. As for Ellie, I would give a shot to my homegirl, fellow Latina. I'd give it up to Isabella Moner from the Dora movie.
Oh,
Okay.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, she's 18. She's right in the pocket. She could definitely play 14, stay in the series long enough to be an older Ellie. She could grow with the series. Plus, she's good. She was in one of the Transformers movies. I think she definitely shows that she has the acting chops. So I would absolutely give her a shot.
I like it.
Nice.
Plus, why not? Let's get some minorities in there, yo.
Yeah. Why not?
Give us a chance. We could do it too.
So I like the Daphne Keane for Ellie, and I like the one you just mentioned for Ellie too. Now for Joel, I don't know if it's because I just saw the movie, but I like the ruggedness that Clive Owen brings to a role. He has this rugged look that you know that he's been through shit. You know what I mean? And he's definitely a fantastic actor.
He is. He is.
He might be a little aged out because I know that Joel's probably 50 or 45 when we get to him.
Yeah.
But
Clive Owen
yeah.
he's in his 50s. I think he's like mid 50s right now.
Right. So, but even then, I would even say that this is the kind of story that even it could work even if it doesn't have to be a Caucasian actor. It doesn't have to be an American. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
No.
You know, because one of the things that they can do in the show to make it interesting or newer for especially the gamers is have it take place in Europe. We never saw Europe in the game, and this is supposed to be a worldwide phenomenon.
So you're saying like just two like all totally different people, or you're just saying like keep Joel and Ellie, but in a different
Joel and
environment?
Ellie, but do it in Europe, and that way you can probably have an African American actor play Joel, and you know what I mean, and just change the location but tell the same story. So it literally feels fresh from different angles.
Yeah.
You know, they could do that too.
I think it just might be like super, like the kind of like the locales it takes place in are like kind of like super iconic. I think people would get so angry. I mean, people get angry about anything. So
right.
I think people got angry when you said John Hamm. You know, so
yeah.
I'm interested to see, like, do they just stick with the story of the first game? Do they write original content for the series, or do they just continue like as season 2 into the second game?
I would like them to do a limited series just like Watchmen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No time skip. I don't want to know what happens in between both games.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's the way that one works. I think Watchmen proved that if you focus and work on what you want to say and focus on saying just that, and you're okay with saying just that, it works perfectly. I think that's the only reason why Watchmen worked. I heard this podcast. I listen to Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin all the time and Fat Man Beyond, but one of the episodes of what Mark Bernardin will call Black Man Beyond, he literally did like an hour and a half interview with Lindelof about Watchmen, and you learn a lot.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
Awesome.
So guys, I think we've done it. We've talked The Last of Us. We have talked about how much this game made us into who we are today, taking awful decisions against mankind. No, I'm kidding. But thank you for joining me in the chat after. Thank you for joining me talking about this amazing game. Hopefully, I will have you guys back on so we can talk more movies and maybe more games that impact us and shake us to the core like this one. Have you guys pre-ordered it? I pre-ordered it last week. Have you guys pre-ordered The Last of Us?
I haven't yet. I'll probably just like buy it the day it comes out on like digital and download it.
Yeah, I bought it. I have not, because pre-ordered games scare me now, and I blame EA and BioWare
and Anthem, to be specific.
So if we want to be specific, I blame Anthem specifically. So they've soured pre-orders for me.
I haven't yet because I'm emotionally not ready.
I can't commit, right?
I pre-ordered mine with tears in my eyes because I wanted to get the collector's edition, but they've been sold out
with the statue?
forever.
I think reviews are actually dropping tonight at midnight.
Oh, stay away.
Yeah.
Everybody, lock up the Twitter. So before I head out, let's put some plugs in. Let's tell the good people that hear this pod. Let us know where we can find you, Mike.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at Novice Cinephile. I also have my own blog called novicecinephile.com. I usually write about musicals and video games and movies and stuff over there. Same with another website I write for, wabaменtertainment.com. And John and I have a movie podcast called Mike and John at the Movies. You guys can check us out on Spotify.
Sweet. John, where can we find you, man?
You guys can find me on Twitter at JohnMath95. I watch all kinds of movies, and I log them all the time on my Letterboxd account. You can find me there at letterboxd.com/John Matthews. Matthews is 1T. And yeah, I also write for wabamentertainment.com from time to time. And I have my own website, johnmath95.com. And then, of course, I co-host alongside Mike on our podcast, Mike and John at the Movies.
Brederson.
Yes, I am at BT Miro on Twitter. I've been a little MIA lately. I haven't been as active on Twitter as I used to be, and I'm not currently on any regular podcasts. But I don't know, thinking about maybe bringing some things back. We'll see if I have time. So for anyone who was a fan of like Revengers stuff or the Play It Loudcast, maybe there will be something for you at some point.
So you're saying there's a chance.
So I'm saying there's a chance.
Don't do this to us. After the emotional struggle that I went through doing this podcast, Brett.
I know.
And the VO Hustler, the person that needs no more introduction, Mr. 1,200 followers, bro. That is amazing.
Thank you.
Dude, how can we find you, bro?
You can. I'm at Rob with 2 B's Moreira. So you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. Just put at Rob Moreira and you'll be able to find me. If you want, you could just Google Rob Moreira. Again, that's Rob with 2 B's, and you'll see most of my socials on there. That's probably the easiest way to find me. Or if you're really bored, just watch TV. The voice of Pushy the Push Pop. So if you've ever seen a Push Pop commercial, that's me. If you've ever seen Armani do their Aqua de Jo commercials for their cologne, that's also me. If you're in Texas, if you watch Laredo Taco Company commercials, that's me. And stay tuned because I got some Burger King commercials coming up too. So I'm everywhere.
Awesome.
Nice.
Sweet. Thank you guys again for joining me to talk movies, talk The Last of Us. Keep watching movies, guys. Have it awesome.